Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing my writing GNL that I did with myself and Emma Hogan. I was in Florence studying abroad, so I chose a poem about Florence called The View from Fiesole by Milton. The broad circumference hung on his shoulders like the moon, whose orb, through optic glass, the Tuscan artist views at evening from the top of Fiesole or in Villarno to descry new lands, rivers, or mountains in her spotty globe. I also included my pictures that I took in the town of Fiesole and the view from above when I took a hike. Analysis. Looking back, I remember my first group trip with Kappa as a group up into the hills of Fiesole. At first, I didn't think it would be that important and significant to me personally. As we trekked up the steep hike, I felt my lungs giving out, but as I looked out over the hills, I saw the true beauty of Florence and her vastness. Milton is able to capture this vastness in his poem. The specific way he talks about the circumference of the city and its surroundings being like a moon feels so true when you see it up in the beautiful town of Fiesole. The way he describes all of the towns that fall around Florence so beautifully but are eaten up by her vastness is very accurate. Milton is able to understand Florence and her chaos from up that high, and so was I. So I felt like this poem spoke really true to something I firsthand experienced when I was studying there. And then my poem in response. I am within my new globe. I know not what lies beyond these new arches, what lies beyond these loud streets. But when I am up in the hills of Fiesole, I can see it all. I can see what envelopes me, what eats me up each day. I can understand why I take that longer road back to my new home. I will always remember her steep slopes, for she gave me my understanding. And then Emma's response poem. Eyes cannot digest this view, my brain chokes on the vast scenery before me. How can places like this exist on earth? If you do not know this feeling, you have never seen the beauty of Fiesole, or the dusk light drenching the mountains in Valarno, where you can feel the warmth soaking down your body.
So I wrote this poem trying to imagine what the poet wrote as he was feeling there. Like he talks about how he can actually feel the weight on his shoulders of the moon. So I wrote about how your eyes and brain can't digest what it's taking in, like how the scenery has a physical effect on me as it did the poet. And I also tried to include the two places he talks about what he can see from there and how he might feel there. I just kind of tried to take the same steps he did and the same like poetic prose that he used and the same patterns in a way, if that makes sense. So this is Emma here now, and this is the poem I chose about Sydney. It's called On the Beach, a bicentennial poem by John Forbes. Your vocation calls and you answer it, although there are these episodes in the shape of lips, or block cut from the ocean with gradually deeper shades of blue. As you trace down the seabed like a shadow spreading across a billabong with a quiet motor on a pump in the background. Milled dayglow ephemera sell you this image of Australia, and where it appears, flogged in true blue, your vocation looks more like a blurred tattoo, or something you did for a bet. And now regret, like a man walking the length of the bar on his hands, balancing a drink on his shoe. So this poem is about a specific place in Double Bay. It was actually really tricky to find a poem on this specific place compared to other spots I assume are more popular or popular tourist attractions. I'm not really sure. So the first photo on the left is Blackburn Gardens. It's right above the beach. It's behind a street. So behind the street, there's this like secret garden, and it's hidden from the main road. And then beyond that secret garden is a staircase down to like a secret beach, basically. So it's kind of like a hidden treasure. So that's a view of the garden from above. And then that top picture is the beach around sunset when it's emptying out. It's a really small little beach strip of land. And then below it is out on the boardwalk looking back at the shore. So you can see how like close the shore is basically right there, I guess. Like those houses are literally just right there on the edge of the water. And then that last picture on the right is from the staircase on the way down to the beach, like the full view of the beach to give you a better view. So yeah. So now is my analysis of this poem. It takes place in Double Bay in Sydney. Behind Blackburn Gardens, there's two beaches, Redleaf Beach, also called Rosemary Pool, and then next to it is Seven Shillings Beach. I think Forbes describes this area well and accurately in a way I wouldn't have thought of. And it's a really small beach, as I already said. It's a really small stretch of sand behind the busy streets. I am assuming only locals really know about this. I found out about it from Google. Kind of just went on a whim to see if it was actually like there because it was the closest beach apparently to me, and I'd never heard of it. And then I realized it was so much easier to get to than Bondi or Manly. It would only take me like a half hour to get there. I just walk to the bus and go straight there. So it became my regular spot when I didn't have like a full day to spend at the beach. I would just go there and I'd go on my own sometimes. Sometimes I'd go with friends. And some days I felt really alone and lonely when I was there and kind of sad. And then other days it was really peaceful and felt good being alone there. And I just had a lot of feelings there. So, based on my reading of this poem, I think the poet is describing exactly what he sees, but in his own thoughts, basically. This particular beach is hidden and not visible from the road. He writes in a stop and go style with large spaces between words, and I think this is meant to show his thought process. So he's describing what he sees and exactly how his thoughts go. So when you go down about 50 steps, you see this thin strip of sand in a little mini bay, which he describes as a block cut from the ocean, which I think is perfect because, as you can see in the photo before, there's a little boardwalk, kind of a horseshoe shape that goes and fences in a little pool area for you to swim in. And that is like literally a block cut from an ocean. Like they just cut that part out for you to swim in, and then beyond that is boats anchored where it's like too deep. I actually saw a stingray there once, so it gets pretty deep pretty quick. So when he says gradually deeper shades of blue, that is kind of describing the depth of the water. As you know, water's light where it's shallow and then really dark when the sunlight can't get through to the bottom, and that means that it's really deep. So that's how he described exactly what he saw in his own words. And then he describes what he hears, which is quiet motors from the shallowly anchored boats. As I said, the boats are literally right there. Like you could swim for 2 minutes and you could touch a boat. Like they're really close to the shore. The poet thinks they mean the big businesses or government when he talks about the Dayglow ephemera that they try to sell you. I think he's trying to talk about like what Australia tourism tries to sell, the image of Australia. It's like this bright, transient Australian beach, more similar to Bondi or Manly. And then he compares true Australia to a regretful bad tattoo. I think at least that's what he's saying. I think the poet was going through something much deeper at the time that he was writing this because this isn't everyone's typical thoughts when they're just sitting on a beach. Maybe it was stuck in the back of his mind as he was writing this, as he sat there and wrote a poem alone and felt alone as I did when I was there. He was writing about this beautiful beach, but he couldn't help his inner cynic or realist. Those are the steps that I think Forbes took in writing this poem, but that's obviously just my guess. I can't be 100%. So, just to warn you, I am no poet. I consider poetry my weakest suit, I guess, of English. I really am not a good poet and I struggle with writing it, so please don't judge. The tugboat horn summons you back from your daydream. Your thoughts scatter, like the gulls in the sand as a child runs towards with fists of weaponized pebbles. Scanning the strip of narrow sand for other people, like the praying gulls eye the shallow water for asinine fish, skulking crabs, sweeping stingrays. You are alone, on a deserted shore. All the busy families went home for bed, all the friends danced down to the pub to drink, all the couples floated to their dinner dates and love. You are alone, on the coast of a foreign country, in a city of strangers, with only a sandy towel and empty bottle of water. But you don't want a chaperone. The fleeting sun flecks the ocean's surface as empty boats rock in the waves, unmanned. The horizon rests as darkness rushes in, undisturbed oasis, hidden below a teeming city. This is the Australia that you don't see on a postcard, the special spot where locals enjoy charcuterie and wine, absent of out-of-towners. Serendipitous discovery made happily by chance when you stepped off the bus, through the secret garden, down the stairs, to just enough sand and water to make you want to stay. So clearly, by looking at this, you can tell I tried to kind of structure my poem the same as Forbes by breaking up my thoughts with enters and tabs, like to create space in between my thoughts and sentences. And I think that's a good tool to make you pause as you're reading and actually think. I tried to write about different things that I saw, felt, and heard while I was there. I kind of combined a lot of memories into one since I'm writing this at my house in Massachusetts right now, not actually on this beach, sadly. And I think I saw the same views or similar views that Forbes wrote about. I just think I went into a different detail about them because I'm obviously a different person. So I wrote about different things that I noticed while I was there. But I try to do it in the same style and take the same steps that he did. So now here is Sarah's response poem. The waves lap their depth onto the shore. My thoughts are with you no more. I remember all of the day I used to come here for refuge. Your deep blue brought me my comfort. I think of all your shores and the places you call home. Mine is right here among you, but yours stretch far and wide. The coasts that line our worlds. To be alone with you is a dream. I like Sarah's poem more than mine because it gets to the point way quicker with way less words. I struggle to kind of narrow down my thoughts and choose what to write about. But I think she did a really good job of describing the same feeling of being on the beach, being far away from home, but you're still on a beach just like all the other beaches. And she can still talk about the different actions of the sea, like the waves and the depth.